The Lewis and Clark expedition, which took place from 1804 to 1806, marked the initial overland journey by the United States to the Pacific coast and back. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803 ignited a desire for westward expansion. Shortly after the acquisition, President Thomas Jefferson, a proponent of moving westward, allocated $2,500 through the U.S. Congress to dispatch a small U.S. Army unit for exploration toward the Pacific Ocean. Their mission included studying and providing detailed reports on Indian tribes, geography, climate, plants, and animals. Additionally, they were tasked with assessing potential interference from British and French-Canadian hunters and trappers who were already established in the region. Jefferson's primary goal was for the unit to discover a waterway connecting the eastern and western parts of the continent. Jefferson chose 28-year-old Army Captain Meriwether Lewis to head the expedition, later known as the Corps of Discovery. Lewis, in turn, picked his former Army comrade, 32-year-old William Clark, as the co-leader of the expedition. Due to bureaucratic delays in the U.S. Army, Clark officially held only the rank of second lieutenant at that time. Nevertheless, Lewis kept this information from the men and shared the leadership, consistently referring to Clark as Captain. Lewis and Clark arrived at their staging point at the convergence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers near St. Louis, Missouri, in December 1803. They set up winter camp at the mouth of Wood River on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. During the winter, the two captains recruited young woodsmen, boatmen, and enlisted soldiers who volunteered from nearby Army outposts. In the spring, the team, consisting of around 40 men, embarked on their historic journey on May 14, 1804. They industriously moved westward along the Missouri River throughout the long, hot summer, passing La Rochette, the last white settlement on the Missouri River. Their route took them through what is now Kansas City, Missouri, and then along the contemporary borders of Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa. During the journey, the group encountered internal challenges, including disciplinary floggings, 2 desertions, and the dishonorable discharge of a man for mutiny. On August 20, 1804, the Corps of Discovery faced its first and only fatality when Sergeant Charles Floyd died from what was believed to be an acute appendicitis attack. While in South Dakota, a group of Teton Sioux attempted to halt their boats, but when the explorers displayed their superior weapons, they were permitted to continue sailing. For their initial winter stay, the explorers chose a location near present-day Washburn, North Dakota, among the Mandan Indians. On the north bank of the Missouri River, they erected a log fort named Fort Mandan in tribute to the local Indians. At this point, the expedition had around 1,500 miles. During the winter, the explorers engaged in hunting, gathered information about the upcoming route, and crafted tools they would later trade for supplies. It was during this period that they encountered a French-Canadian trader, Toussaint Charbonneau, and his young, pregnant Shoshone wife, Sacagawea. Sacagawea's tribal homeland was in the Rocky Mountain region far to the west, and she spoke both Shoshone and Minatari dialects. Lewis and Clark enlisted Charbonneau and Sacagawea to accompany them as guides and interpreters. Sacagawea's son was born at Fort Mandan in February, and when the expedition resumed its journey in April, the young family joined them. On the journey, Sacagawea turned out to be even more valuable than they had first anticipated, serving as a peacemaker and negotiating for horses and supplies. The expedition pressed onward up the Missouri River and entered Montana Territory. However, as they approached the Rocky Mountains, the flow of the Missouri River began to diminish. When the expedition reached the headwaters of the river deep in the mountains, they had no choice but to proceed on land. Despite their earlier belief that the Missouri River would connect seamlessly to another major river leading to the Pacific, the expedition discovered that such a straightforward connection did not exist. The expedition proceeded overland, traversing a significant portion of present-day northern Idaho until they reached the Clearwater and Snake Rivers, allowing them to resume their journey by boat. Progressing more swiftly on the water, they arrived at the Columbia River in mid-October. Moving forward, they navigated past Calilo Falls and through the area that is now Portland, Oregon. In November 1805, about 18 months after departing from St. Louis, Lewis spotted Mount Hood, a mountain known to be in close proximity to the ocean. However, with winter approaching, they established a permanent winter dwelling south of the Columbia River, Oregon, which they named Fort Clatsop. Throughout the self-described long, wet winter, The expedition prepared for the journey home by boiling salt from the ocean and hunting elk and other wildlife. The explorers commenced their return journey on March 23, 1806, and Lewis and Clark separated on their way back. Clark led one group up the Yellowstone River, while Lewis led another group into north-central Montana and the province of Alberta. They reunited on the Missouri River in August and reached St. Louis on September 23, 1806. Throughout their journey, Lewis and Clark consistently gathered samples of plants, animals, and birds, documenting their encounters with the various Native American tribes they encountered. Their meticulous observations round trip, covering climate, landscape, plant communities, and human and animal populations, provided valuable insights to a nation in the midst of expansion. While the expedition did not uncover the Northwest Passage, it significantly contributed to the understanding of the newly acquired territory and paved the way for westward settlement. Following the expedition's conclusion, Lewis assumed the role of governor of the Louisiana Territory in 1807. His early tenure went smoothly, but 2 years later, a financial controversy arose. In an attempt to address the dispute, Lewis planned to travel to Washington, D.C. While journeying through Tennessee, Governor Meriwether Lewis died under mysterious circumstances from gunshot wounds at Grinder's Stand, a public roadhouse, on October 11, 1809. Whether his death resulted from murder or suicide remains unknown. His final resting place is where he died, within today's Natchez Trace National Parkway, near Hohenwald, Tennessee. At the same time, Clark received the appointment as a brigadier general of the territory in March 1807. In 1813, he assumed the role of governor of Missouri Territory, holding the position until Missouri achieved statehood in 1820. President Monroe appointed him superintendent of Indian Affairs in 1822, a position he retained through subsequent presidencies until the end of his life. General William Clark passed away from natural causes in St. Louis on September 1, 1838, and he rests in the Clark family plot at Bellefontaine Cemetery in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, you can still trace the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail along the Missouri and Columbia rivers. While numerous changes have occurred over the centuries, many parts of the trail remain unchanged. Stretching 3,700 miles, the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail stands as the second longest among the 23 National Scenic and National Historic Trails. It commences at Hartford, Illinois, and spans through Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. Many individuals choose to follow the trail by car, while those seeking a more adventurous experience can explore various sections that are suitable for boating, biking, or hiking.